I'm not sure how common it is, whether I was unusual in some way or not, but I remember as part of growing up, I had to learn to ignore the questions that I had. There were questions about everything, which I kind of learnt that you're not supposed to ask. After a while, you start to join in the collusion of ignoring unanswerable questions. The questions to do with what life's all about. But they can also express themselves in more general, everyday life terms about the way things work generally, socially, legally, politically, scientifically. I think a lot of people that get involved in these things are still in their own way pursuing unanswered questions. I used to wonder why my parents ever got married. One of my earliest thoughts was, why did these two people choose to live together? They obviously didn't get on. I never really got a satisfactory answer. But you learn just to accept that that's the way it is. So simple questions like that. Simple questions like why one person's happy and another's not. Why one person seems to have good fortune and another one doesn't. The thing is, it doesn't do to ask too many questions. I think this was what happened with Socrates a long time ago in ancient Greece. He got arrested for stirring up the youth. And I think all he did was get the youth to actually question the natural order of things. So although even in our progressive West, to some extent we're invited to ask questions, to question things, there are still very definite limits to this. There are still very definite limits to how far we can actually go with this. So in chapter 206 we had King Prajnapti's question, although it was really a whole list of questions. A whole list of questions which reflect the contradictions of the cultural understandings within which he lived. And we could probably come up with all our own questions. Questions about existence, about birth and death, questions about the relation of our own emotions to the world around us, questions of love and hate, of cruelty and kindness, and all the rest of it. And Vasishta's reply, I think, is the basis for answering all such questions. Vasishta said, O king, listen. I shall answer your questions in such a way that all your doubts are at rest. All things in this world are forever unreal, but they are also real because of the consciousness that is the sole reality and their content. This is our starting point. All things in the world are forever unreal in the sense that they're not what we think they are. But they have this sense of reality because this is what consciousness creates. Along with awareness, consciousness creates this sense of reality. This is what's real right now. Everything else is memory or dream or hallucination or hypnosis. This is what's real right now, isn't it? You're awake, you're not sleeping. Although if you're sleeping in a dream, that's what's real at that time. You've no doubt about the reality of that. If you're hypnotized or having a hallucination, that's what you think of as real as the time. Whatever you're aware of, there's this sense of reality. Whatever that consciousness decides, this is such and such, that it becomes. Whether it is real or unreal, such is the nature of consciousness. This consciousness conceived of a body and it becomes aware of the body. It is self-awareness that becomes aware of the body, not the other way round. It's not the body that becomes aware. There's this automatic cultural assumption in our modern way of thinking that matter becomes aware. Matter evolved, inert, insentient matter evolved, and then at a certain point of complexity it becomes aware. This is a total assumption and belief, and it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But this is what the great this is what the materials and atheists believe. They believe in this supernatural leap from insentience to sentience. How they reconcile that, I do not see. It is such a blatant and massive contradiction. It's a total non sequitur. It's a leap of faith. It's the most profound faith. It was possibly the greatest leap of blind faith imaginable, to believe that insentient matter becomes sentient, that it starts feeling passions and creating ideas and mobilizing thoughts, political and religious thoughts, and creating art, and yet they'll accept this quite happily. So either they have to assume that everything is matter, in which case they ought to be able to tell us the material components of the idea of communism. How does that work? Surely if we're being rational, surely if we're being truly scientific, you take the simpler explanation. And the simpler explanation is that the body is notional, and therefore it's a product of consciousness, it's a product of awareness. You just got to look into this, examine it, be scientific. It's the simplest explanation, it's the simplest answer. You always take the simplest answer, the simplest explanation. Isn't this what Occam's razor is about? Isn't this the fundamental scientific principle? If there are two explanations to something, you take the simplest. This is the simplest explanation, that consciousness becomes aware of the body. Not that the body becomes aware of consciousness.